Lakita Brown was known to her friends and family as Kita. She was born on November 20th, 1979, and was only 39 years old when she died. She was born in Virginia Beach, although her devotion to her faith led her to travel around the world, preaching in Haiti and West Africa. Kita was known to have a contagious laugh and was determined, with a never-give-up attitude.
She had the smile that lit up the room, and she had a very infectious giggle.
Ryan Keith Cox was 50 on the day he was killed. For the previous 12 and a half years, he was an accounting clerk for the city of Virginia Beach. Keith was a member of the New Hope Baptist Church, and he thoroughly enjoyed studying the Bible. He was also a member of the Anointed Voices, Men of Hope, the men's ministry, and the male chorus. Keith loved sports and reading.
He was very protective of family and friends and would not think about dangerous things that happening to him, but he wanted to make sure that everybody else is safe.
39-year-old Tara Gallagher was a devoted wife and mother. She died, leaving behind her young son, who was her pride and joy. Tara was kind, humble, and compassionate, and described as beautiful inside and out. Mary Lou Gale worked for the city of Virginia Beach for 24 years. She was a member of the DPW, Department of Public Works Department. Although her focus was on supporting projects to improve the city, Mary Lou was a single mother and raised 2 children that were adults at the time she was murdered. She was a hard worker, and once her children had grown and gone to college, she chose to go back to school herself and obtained a bachelor's and master's degree before her death. Alexander Gusev was born in Belarus but came to the United States on May 31, 2003. He graduated from Old Dominion with a bachelor's degree in science and business management. Alexander went on to become a right-of-way agent for the Virginia Department of Public Works. He had a wonderful sense of humor. His mom came to the U.S. with him, but he also leaves behind a father, twin brother, sister-in-law, and niece. His death is keenly felt by them. Alexander was only 35 years old when he was taken from his family. Joshua Hardy was 52 years old on that terrible day in May. Born Joshua Orion Hardy, he changed his name to Dennis Angelo Hoskins because he wanted to honor his grandfather, who was more like a father to him. He was from Norfolk, Virginia, and worked for the city of Norfolk for 12 years before taking employment for the city of Virginia Beach as an engineering technician in the Public Utilities Department. Dennis worked for Virginia Beach for 4.5 years until his death. Michelle Missy Langer loved beach life and had lived in Virginia Beach for 20 years. She was born in Michigan, and despite her move to the beach she loved so much, she remained a hardcore University of Michigan Wolverines fan. She attended the Good Shepherd Lutheran Church as a devoted religious woman. Missy loved music, particularly Paul McCartney. She was only 60 when she was taken from this world. United States Army veteran Richard Nettleton was 65 when he was murdered. He worked for the city as a design and construction manager in the city's Public Utilities Department. Richard was a strong supporter of the Minority Business Expo, and he staunchly believed in reaching out to all in the community. Catherine A. Lusich Nixon was known as Kate. She was a faithful public servant enjoying spending her time volunteering. Kate touched many people through her personal and professional life. She had daughters she loved with all her heart, and her husband was her best friend. He describes his 42-year-old wife as the most loving and intelligent woman he has ever met. Christopher Kelly Rapp worked various jobs for the city of Virginia Beach in public utilities. He was a stormwater management regulatory engineer most recently. Christopher was a fantastic dancer and loved all forms of dancing, but especially line dancing, ballroom dancing, and Filipino cultural dances. He played the bagpipes and was learning to play the piano at the time he was brutally killed. He was only 54 years old. Herbert Snelling was called Bert by everybody who knew him. At 57, he was a master carpenter, and he enjoyed creating custom gates and cabinets. Bert was a self-sacrificing man who was humble and had an infectious laugh. He loved to use humor to make others laugh. U.S. Navy veteran Robert Bobby Williams was 72 when his life was taken. He was a special projects coordinator in the Public Utilities Department and will always be remembered as a loving husband, father, and grandfather to his family. The Virginia Beach Municipal Center is located in the Princess Anne neighborhood of Virginia Beach, and it houses the city's public works, planning, and public utility departments. It is an open government facility, with security passes being required to access the employee conference rooms and office areas. The building is beautiful, 3-story and historical looking, with nearly 400 workers. The City Hall building is nearby as well as the Parks and Recreation building. The city of Virginia Beach is located in the southeastern corner of Virginia. It is home to approximately 450,000 people, making it the most populous city in the state of Virginia. The town sits along the Atlantic Ocean at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. It's a resort town with miles of beaches and hundreds of hotels and restaurants. Virginia Beach is host to the East Coast Surfing Championships, North American Sand Soccer Championships, and even a beach soccer tournament. There are 3 military bases and several large corporations that are headquartered here. Cape Henry is located at the point where the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean meet. Cape Henry is also the site of the first landing of the English colonists. It is an area rich in history and also boasts the Guinness Book of World Record for the longest pleasure beach in the world, as well as for the longest bridge tunnel complex in the world. The city is 497 square miles in land, with over 38 miles of beaches. It sits about 3.5 hours away from Washington, D.C. Virginia Beach became incorporated as a town in 1906, and as a city in 1952. The modern city of Virginia Beach, however, was created in 1963. The climate is subtropical and humid, and winters are cool with very little snowfall. There are less than a dozen inches of snow on average per year, and summers are mostly hot and humid. Evan was born on October 15, 1978, and was 40 years old when he committed his atrocious acts. He led a pretty straight life in the sense that he had no criminal record to speak of, aside from some petty traffic violations. His mother was only 19 when he was born, and his dad was 22. In the mid-90s they divorced and both later remarried. Evan changed his last name to his stepfather's in 1998. He grew up mostly in the Virginia Beach area after his parents' divorce, but little else is known about his childhood. Evan didn't appear to have a vast circle of friends, not even any genuinely close friends. There didn't seem to be much known about him, particularly from his earlier years. But because he didn't maintain any close friendships, there wasn't much to say about him. He graduated from Denby High School in Newport News, Virginia, in 1996, and immediately joined the Army National Guard. Evan was a cannon crew member with the 1st Battalion 111th Field Artillery Regiment for the Virginia Army National Guard in Norfolk, Virginia, from 1996 through April of 2002, when he was honorably discharged. He held the rank of Specialist E4, but he was never deployed into combat action. During his time with the Guard, Evan attended Old Dominion University and graduated with a degree in civil engineering in 2002. After he was out of college, he accepted a job at Lewis & White, which was an engineering firm in Virginia Beach. In May of 2003, Evan left the engineering firm and took on a new job at MSA Engineering as a project engineer. He was a professional engineer and obtained his license in the state of Virginia in 2008. In February of 2008, Evan was laid off from MSA. He complained about not getting a promotion there, although that isn't likely the reason he was given for his layoff. Evan got married in February of 2008 and then accepted yet another new job at Draper Aiden Associates as a project engineer level 3. He didn't last there long, resigning in July 2008. Later that year in November, Evan started working for the city of Newport News, Virginia as an engineer level 2. That job didn't last very long either, and he resigned there in January of 2010. A month later, he began working for the city of Virginia Beach as an engineer level 2. This time the job seemed to stick, and in January of 2012, Evan and his wife bought a house in Virginia Beach. The work continued to go well, so well that in April 2014 he received an Excellence in Service Award. In 2015 he was honored again, twice in fact, with a Team Participation Award in May and another Excellence in Service Award in December. Evan obtained his concealed handgun permit in April of 2016, and his interest in guns began to grow. Sadly, his marriage wasn't working out, and the couple filed for divorce on August 21, 2017. Although they had been separated since September of 2016. The divorce was finalized on September 29, 2017. His ex-wife reported to police that Evan was controlling. He wouldn't let her see friends or family very often. He was a meticulous dresser, keeping himself in perfect shape. The apartment he kept in Virginia Beach was kept in perfect order, too. His desire for order and control bordered on obsessive compulsiveness. When their divorce was finalized, Evan was required to pay his ex-wife $25,000 in the settlement, and the remaining assets and liabilities were split between them. After all was said and done, his ex took their 2 dogs and moved away from him, to Durham, North Carolina. After the divorce, Evan started to become reclusive. He rarely left the house other than to go to work. Family functions became a thing of the past, and he was slowly withdrawing into himself. Over 3 years before the shooting, Evan purchased 6 different firearms. 2 were used in the shooting, and there were an additional 4 found at Evan's home afterward. Late 2016 and early 2017 started to see the severe decline in Evan's personal and professional life. In January 2017, he emailed his supervisor and said he was an above-average engineer, but his salary didn't reflect it. Despite that email, he received a reprimand at work for failing to deposit 13 checks from various vendors. He was placed on a performance improvement plan about 5 months later. In June of 2017, Evan complained to his supervisor again, this time saying that he was assigned a project above his expertise and pay grade. His work performance wasn't improving, as shown by other incidents that included Evan making inappropriate comments to coworkers, insubordination, and failure to communicate with citizens about various city projects properly. One time, he submitted an invoice for $3,027 worth of work performed by a contractor. However, he didn't follow the proper procedure. He authorized a job improperly, and the work violated a city ordinance. Evan talked to one of his coworkers about using his own money to fix the issue. He didn't want to get in more trouble, and he was already on thin ice. In July of 2018, he received a write-up for poor performance. Adding insult to injury, he received an improvement required mark on his annual evaluation only a month later. He wasn't displaying any efforts to improve, and Evan started to think he was being held to higher standards than his coworkers, and he was getting angrier. He felt underpaid for the work he performed, and believed he didn't even get the recognition he deserved for his work. Despite his self-inflated opinion, his coworkers described him as a subpar to average engineer. He could take incredibly detailed notes, but then he would struggle with problem-solving when it came to his projects.
He had some issues in the past, just normal performance issues. Many of the issues that he had experienced in the past had been resolved, where he was doing a very good job. We're shocked.
Evan kept to himself at work, too, and didn't befriend anyone. His peers were utterly unaware that Evan had even gotten divorced. His avoidance of others was becoming evident. He was never a social butterfly, but shortly before the shooting, Evan started keeping his door at work closed, or barely open. He began avoiding eye contact and was displaying odd and cold behaviors toward others. He became almost paranoid, thinking others were out to get him, going so far as to install 3 security cameras inside his home. Coworkers said he was a very private person and not the type to start up conversations. He made it clear he was upset at being passed over for promotion. It was also later reported that Evan was outraged that his supervisor had discussed his resignation with other employees, which he knew happened because someone had asked him about leaving. By November 2018, Evan completely cut off contact with his mother. However, the family members that did have contact started to notice paranoia too. Evan's interest in mass shootings grew, and his connection to the outside world was diminishing rapidly. Rarely did he attend work events or do after-work drinks like many of his coworkers did. He always seemed guarded, never volunteering personal information. Evan's neighbors also reported that he kept to himself, and the one below him said that Evan would be awake at all hours of the night. Despite that, he was gone every day, by 7 a.m. headed to the gym. They also reported that Evan was never seen taking out the trash or bringing in groceries, and there was never anyone there to visit.
Whenever we had